Hello there. Welcome to the Sleepless Scientist, where your imagination can roam, even while you rest. Tonight we drift together into a story older than mountains, older than the seas you know, older even than the very shapes of the continents you've seen drawn on globes. Tonight we travel to a world that was, in every sense, alien. You find yourself standing on a vast plain beneath a sun that feels far closer, far hungrier than the one that warms your window now. This is Pangaea, the great supercontinent, a single landmass so massive that it stretches almost from pole to pole. Imagine the deserts you know today, then stretch them into infinity. Pangaea was a furnace, a land with interiors so distant from any ocean that rain could rarely, if ever, reach them. Plants clung to life in dusty riverbeds. Reptiles with scales like burnished bronze trundled across cracked red soil. The air itself was hot, sharp, unrelenting. And here's the reality check. If you had been there, standing under that sun without shade, you probably wouldn't survive an afternoon. The heat would press into your lungs like iron. You'd look up and see no clouds, no promise of relief, only a yellow sky, heavy with silence. But still, life persisted. Small amphibians lingered near shrinking pools. Primitive reptiles scuttled, jaws snapping at insects that buzzed above the scorched ground. In rare oases, conifers rose, their needles catching faint breezes. This was a precarious balance, a world where survival meant clinging to the edges of rivers and lakes that could vanish without warning. Now pause and notice your breath, in and out. Feel how much you rely on air, on water, on balance. In this ancient world, the balance was razor thin, and yet even in this inhospitable desertscape, the seeds of great change were waiting. Scientists tell us that Pangaea's deserts baked beneath greenhouse conditions created by volcanic outgassing. Carbon dioxide levels were far higher than today, perhaps 4 or 5 times greater. The world was hot not by chance, but by chemistry. But here's a quirky tidbit. Despite this brutal heat, certain amphibians still thrived, hiding in burrows, bores, and mud cracks. Imagine them tucked away, waiting for rains that almost never came. Their stubborn presence is a reminder that life has a way of hiding hope in the smallest corners. As you walk across this plain in your imagination, the silence is strange. No bird song, for birds have not yet evolved. No mammalian chatter, for mammals are still tiny shadows in the underbrush. Instead, the air carries the hiss of insects, the occasional croak of an amphibian, the shuffle of a reptile's tail in the dust. Everything feels both vast and empty, and yet alive in ways you must learn to notice. Let your eyes lift to the horizon. There you see low volcanic ridges, smudges of darker stone against the bleached desert. They are not yet the monsters they will become. For now they smoulder quietly as if sleeping. But scientists still argue whether it was the awakening of these volcanoes that set in motion the storm to come. Was it their gases alone, or a complex dance between shifting tectonic plates and atmospheric chemistry? The debate continues, and as you rest here in your imagination you can simply observe, knowing the answer lies in stone, not in certainty. You kneel and touch the ground. It is hot, rough, coated in iron-rich dust. Red beds, geologists call them today, layers upon layers of oxidized soil that preserve the colors of an ancient desert. These rocks, silent yet eloquent, tell us of a world parched beyond comprehension. You feel the grit between your fingers, and it crumbles easily, fragile, just like the balance of life that clung here. Close your eyes now and listen. The air is still, the sky is clear. But if you wait, if you let your imagination stretch across the deep rhythm of time, you begin to sense a change. It is faint, a shift in the smell of the air, a tension in the silence, a weight building high above. The sky, once so empty, begins to carry a promise of water, but you do not know yet what that water will mean. You cannot guess that it will not be a gift but a deluge, that it will not fall for a season or for a year, but for nearly 2 million years. You cannot imagine the way it will drown forests, blacken seas, erase empires of creatures, and yet, paradoxically, clear the way for new rulers. For now, you only feel the tension, the pause before the first drop, the hush before the first roll of thunder. And I ask you softly, where are you watching from tonight? What time is it where you are? Share it if you like. These check-ins, scattered across the globe like lanterns in the dark, feel to me like flickers of warmth across a cold and ancient map. You've come with me to Pangaea. You've felt its heat, its silence, its fragility. Soon the skies will break, soon the rain will fall. And so as you lie back, eyes closing, I'll remind you, you are safe. Safe in your bed, safe in your moment. What you imagine cannot harm you. But the story we are about to wander into, well, you probably wouldn't survive it if you were truly there. And that, strangely, is part of its wonder. You linger in the heat of Pangaea, the stillness pressing down like a heavy blanket. The desert stretches endlessly, a vast canvas of red and ochre dust where the air shimmers with mirages. Every horizon looks the same, every direction repeats itself. But something subtle has begun to change, and if you are quiet enough, still enough, you can almost sense it. The sky is not quite the same shade of pale gold it has been for millennia. At first you think it's only your imagination. Perhaps your eyes are tired from staring too long into the glare. But no, there is a heaviness to the light now, a faint dimming that feels alien in a world where clouds are strangers. You tilt your head back and notice thin streaks of grey high above, wisps, hesitant, like timid brush strokes across a dry canvas. They're not the towering storm clouds you know from your own world, not yet, but they carry a promise, and the land seems to hold its breath beneath them. Imagine walking through one of those ancient river valleys, its bed cracked, its pools long evaporated. Amphibians once thrived here, but now only a few linger in burrows. Their skin dries quickly, fragile against the heat, and yet they persist. Small reptiles scuttle between rocks, their scales gleaming like metal under the sun. They are adapted to this cruelty, but even they seem restless, pausing, lifting their heads, as though they too can sense the atmosphere shifting. Scientists studying these times point to volcanic activity as the first trigger. Vast eruptions in what would one day be the Pangaea province, today part of Alaska and Canada, spewed carbon dioxide into the skies. Slowly and visibly, the chemistry of the atmosphere tipped. The greenhouse effect, already powerful, grew stronger. Air grew wetter, as warm seas evaporated more easily, and the skies so long empty began to gather. But here's a curious little tidbit. It may not have been a single neat cause. Some researchers suggest methane, trapped in ancient rocks or sediments, may have been released too, amplifying the effect. Others wonder whether subtle orbital shifts in Earth's path around the Sun nudged the climate into instability. Scientists still argue whether it was purely volcanic gases or a cocktail of multiple triggers. And in that uncertainty you feel the same waiting sense that must have hung over Pangaea itself. As you imagine standing there, the first gust of wind brushes against your skin. It is not the dry, dusty breath you have grown used to. This wind is cooler, more humid, carrying a scent sharp with unfamiliar moisture. You inhale, and it feels almost electric, as though a storm far away is whispering its approach. The reptiles around you stir uneasily. Some shuffle back to their burrows. Others stay still, necks craning upward, eyes fixed on the strange new shapes in the sky. It is as if instinct tells them that change is coming, not in a day, not in a season, but something larger, something deeper. Think of how your own body responds to storms. Perhaps you've noticed it. Pressure dropping, your chest feeling heavy, your senses sharpened. The creatures of Pangaea, primitive though they were, must have felt it too. They lived not in hours and days, but in cycles of survival. and when the cycle began to shift, their entire world must have felt strange. You continue across the plain. Dust rises at your ankles, swirling in little devils before scattering into the wind. Overhead, the grey streaks thicken into pale veils, and just for a moment, you think you see a flicker, lightning far, far away. It's faint, just a pale scratch of brilliance across the horizon, but it leaves an afterimage in your eyes, and with it, a thrill of unease. The land you stand upon remembers drought. It remembers silence. For ages, its only visitor has been the sun, unrelenting, merciless. But now the sky is preparing to break. Picture the rivers of today, how they surge after rain, how life blossoms along their banks. Imagine the deserts blooming after a storm, the sudden flood of colour and scent. On Pangaea, the creatures must have carried those same instincts. For them, water was hope. They could not yet imagine that too much of it could become disaster. Geologists studying red beds, the iron-stained layers of Triassic rock, see exactly this transition. Beneath lies desert sediment, pale and dry. Above, suddenly, mudstones appear, clays deposited by heavy rains, by floods. It is as if the rock itself captures the pause before the sky opened. A before and after written in minerals, silent yet unambiguous. And so, as you stand in your imagination on this ancient land, you are standing in that moment of anticipation. The desert still burns, but the air is shifting. The sky is no longer empty. The balance is about to tip, and tip in a way no creature could predict. Let your breathing slow here, in and out. Notice the dryness in your throat, the imagined grit of dust against your teeth. Then let the coolness of that new wind brush across your cheek, carrying the faintest taste of rain. The first drop is not here yet, but it is coming, and as you drift towards sleep you carry this thought. The smallest changes can herald the greatest transformations. A wisp of cloud, a shift in wind, a tremor in the earth, tiny signals that a world is about to be undone and remade. You do not yet know what the storm will bring. You cannot yet imagine the floods, the blackened seas, the vanishing empires. But tonight, in this quiet pause, you stand on the edge of it, and all you can do is wait as the first whispers of rain gather far above. The air hangs heavy now, thicker than before. You feel it on your skin, a weight that wasn't there in the desert heat. The clouds above no longer look like shy brushstrokes. They've thickened, swelled, and rolled together into a vast, endless blanket. They are no longer a novelty. They are a ceiling. And beneath that ceiling, Pangaea waits. You pause in the stillness. The horizon has darkened, and though the sun still burns somewhere behind those clouds, its light has dulled into a strange amber haze. Shadows no longer fall sharp and thin, but blur, diffused by the vapour building above. Every living thing seems to sense the change. Insects buzz more frantically. Reptiles shift uneasily in the dust. Amphibians creep closer to the edges of parched pools, as if their instincts whisper that relief is near. And then, finally, the first drop falls. It lands on your arm, cool and startling against skin baked by the imagined desert. Another follows, and then another. The rhythm builds, irregular at first, a tapping on the dry soil and stone. The ground darkens wherever the drops land, like ink soaking into parchment. You tilt your head upward and feel them spatter across your face. For a moment it feels miraculous, a blessing after silence. But the drops do not stop. The rhythm swells into a drumbeat and then into a roar. Sheets of rain hammer down, bouncing from the soil, filling cracks and churning the dust into mud. The sound is deafening, so constant that it becomes a backdrop to everything else. You are standing in the beginning of the storm that will never truly end. Imagine valleys that had lain empty for centuries suddenly channeling torrents of water, carving new rivers in hours. Dry gullies transform into raging floods. Pools form where none had been for ages, and still the rain falls. Scientists who study the Carnian pluvial event call this the beginning of a climate transformation. For 2 million years, the skies would open, driven by volcanic gases, greenhouse heat, and an altered cycle of evaporation. But picture it from the ground, not a neat scientific timeline, but a living nightmare of endless grey, endless water, endless thunder. Here's a quirky fact. Raindrops in the Triassic may have fallen just as they do today, shaped by the same balance of gravity and air resistance. But scientists still debate how heavy the storms were. Some imagine rainfall so intense it rivaled modern monsoons. Others think it waxed and waned across regions. What no one disputes is that the change was dramatic enough to rewrite the map of life. As the flood spread, forests groaned under the weight of water. Trees toppled into swollen rivers, their roots ripped free from soil that could no longer hold them. Ferns surged in the aftermath, sprouting quickly across scarred landscapes, thriving in the damp chaos. The cycle of destruction and renewal began almost immediately. Life eroded in one place and sprang back in another. You look around in your imagination and see creatures struggling in this new world. Large reptiles, once masters of the dry plains, falter in the mud. Their heavy bodies, built for arid heat, sink in the sodden ground. Some collapse, their bones soon to be carried away by floods. Meanwhile, smaller, lighter creatures move more easily. They dart among the dripping ferns, agile and cautious. These survivors are the ancestors of what will soon rise to power. Close your eyes for a moment and listen. The thunder rolls above, deep and resonant, shaking the air. The rain hisses endlessly on leaves, on water, on stone. Beneath it, there are cries, calls of reptiles, the croak of amphibians, the crack of trees giving way. It is a soundscape of change, and you are standing within it. Scientists examining fossilized mudstones find ripple marks and flood deposits layered thick. These are the geological fingerprints of storms that did not end. Within them lie plant spores, sudden surges of fern pollen that prove how quickly vegetation shifted. It is not simply guesswork. The stone speaks, if you know how to listen. And yet scholars still argue whether this was one unbroken torrent or a series of pulses, centuries of rain broken by short reprieves. Did the skies truly weep without pause, or was it simply that the wet ages outweighed the dry? The debate remains, and in that mystery lies the wonder. But in your story tonight, the rain is relentless. It lashes across plains, across forests, across the very bones of the earth. For every day you imagine, more waterfalls. For every year you count, rivers swell higher. And for every lifetime of a creature struggling beneath these skies, the storm remains. Take a breath here, in and out. Imagine the air itself is wet, thick, heavy in your lungs. You can taste minerals in it carried from volcanic ash and soil. You can smell the rot of drowned plants, the tang of fresh mud. It is a world transformed not just in sight and sound, but in every sensation. In time, this storm will carve valleys deeper, fill lowlands with lakes and reshape coastlines. It will suffocate oceans with silt and rob them of oxygen. It will erase half of all species that once walked this land. And yet, in its cruelty, it will open space for something new. The rain becomes your lullaby now. Steady. Hypnotic. You know it will not stop. You know the desert you walk through has already vanished under sheets of water. You know the silence of Pangaea has been replaced by an endless roar. And still, you stand there letting it soak through you. For in this story, you are not struggling. You are only witnessing. You are drifting with time, moving gently through storms that once terrified, now softened into memory. The first raindrops have become a flood, and the flood has become an age. And you, dreamer, are only at the beginning. The storm does not relent. Days bleed into weeks, weeks into months, months into years, and still the sky is iron, pouring its endless flood. You walk across plains that no longer resemble the cracked deserts of Pangaea you first encountered. Now they are mudflats, swollen with water, littered with uprooted trees and the carcasses of creatures that could not endure. The horizon is blurred, veiled by sheets of rain. Yet the skies above are not only clouds. Look more closely. Something else lurks there, a different kind of violence. Dark plumes coil upward from the horizon, rising from fissures in the earth. They are not storm clouds, though from a distance they might appear the same. No, these are born from fire. Volcanoes have awakened. In your imagination you draw nearer. What was once a sleeping ridge is now alive, shuddering with the force of eruptions. Lava fountains leap into the air, staining the storm clouds red. Ash drifts down in thick curtains, mingling with the rain. The world seems to be breaking itself apart. Scientists studying this period name it the Central Atlantic Magmatic Province, CAMP for short. One of the largest volcanic events in Earth's history, it tore open the crust across what would one day become the Atlantic. Over hundreds of thousands of years, these eruptions spewed unimaginable volumes of basalt and gas into the sky. Imagine entire provinces of land drowning not in rain, but in lava. Sheets of fire covering valleys, flowing into lowlands, carving new landscapes in their wake. And here's the strange thing, these eruptions didn't counter the rain. They fueled it. Sulfur and carbon dioxide blasted high into the atmosphere, changed the chemistry of the skies. Carbon trapped heat. Sulfur condensed into droplets, seeding clouds. Volcanic lightning split the heavens. The fires of the earth and the floods of the sky danced together, locked in a catastrophic embrace. You step closer, shielding your eyes from the brilliance of lava fountains. The rain hisses as it strikes molten rivers, steam rising in ghostly pillars. The air smells of brimstone, of rot, of wet ash. Each breath is heavy, tinged with poison. You cough, your throat raw. You realize with sudden clarity that life caught in this storm was breathing death with every inhale. Scientists still argue how much of the extinction during this age was driven by these eruptions directly, and how much by the rains they fed. Was it carbon dioxide heating the planet, acid rain burning forests, methane release choking the seas? The answer is layered, like the lava flows that still remain in the rock record, black against red sandstone. A curious tidbit. Modern geologists can trace these eruptions across 4 continents: North America, South America, Europe, and Africa. They see the same basalt, the same volcanic fingerprints scattered across the globe. It is a reminder that these were not small local fires. This was planetary upheaval, the Earth itself reshaping its skin. You lift your gaze again to the sky. It is an apocalyptic canvas, grey clouds streaked with red light, lightning arcing from ash plumes, rain falling in endless torrents. The world feels both drowned and burning, as though fire and water have declared war and you are standing helpless in the middle. Creatures move in the shadows. You glimpse a massive reptile wading through knee-deep floods, its long jaws snapping at prey washed downstream. It looks powerful, but its eyes flicker with confusion, as though it too does not understand the rules of this new world. In the distance, smaller figures dart among ferns sprouting wildly in the damp soil. Their limbs are light, their chests rising and falling quickly. They are fragile by comparison, but better suited to change. They vanish into the mist as quickly as you notice them. Close your eyes here. Hear the roar of thunder layered with the rumble of erupting mountains. Feel the vibration of the ground beneath your feet as fissures crack open. Smell the acrid sting of sulfur mixed with the metallic tang of rain-soaked stone. This is not simply weather anymore. This is Earth in upheaval, every element unleashed. As you drift with this vision, you realize something profound. The storm is not an accident. It is the consequence of a living planet, one that breathes, convulses, and reshapes itself. And you, a visitor across time, are merely a witness. The rains and eruptions are twin forces, writing a new chapter in Earth's story. Entire ecosystems are collapsing under their weight. Half of all known species will vanish. Yet this destruction, as cruel as it appears, clears the stage. It carves space for new actors, for survivors with lungs more efficient, with bodies more resilient. Evolution is not gentle, it is forged in fire and flood. Scientists even now debate the details of this forging. Did the volcanic gases drive sudden cooling before the long warming? Were the oceans poisoned by hydrogen sulfide bubbling up from their depths? Did the rains last in one unbroken torrent, or wax and wane with volcanic pulses? No single answer satisfies every rock record, and perhaps that is fitting, for a world in chaos leaves behind evidence as fractured as its storms. As you rest in bed, your eyes closed, let these images swirl gently in your mind. Lava glowing against storm clouds, rain sizzling on molten rock, ash turning rivers black. Imagine lying in a shelter as the ground trembles, hearing thunder from both the sky and the earth itself. Imagine drifting into uneasy sleep with the knowledge that the world you wake to may not resemble the one you closed your eyes in. This was the world of 230 million years ago, a drowned desert, a fiery sky, a storm fed by the breath of volcanoes. It was brutal, terrifying, unrelenting, and yet it was necessary. For without these storms, without this fire, the path to what comes next would not have opened. Take another breath. Let it be slow, calm. Let the heat fade, the thunder soften, the fire dim to embers in your imagination. You are safe. Safe to witness, safe to wonder, safe to drift, even as Earth itself raged. The rain falls still, the fire burns still, and life endures in their shadow. The rain has not ceased, the lava has not cooled, fire and water still wrestle for dominance, and yet there is another stage upon which this drama unfolds. The oceans. You walk now toward the coast of ancient Pangaea, where the land dissolves into surf. But what greets you is not the familiar salt tang of a living sea. Instead, the water is dark, thick, and strangely still. Kneel down in your imagination. Dip your hand into the surf. The water feels heavy, almost oily, and it carries a stench that burns your nose. Hydrogen sulfide, an invisible poison, may have bubbled up from the deep, turning the ocean into a suffocating grave. Life, once abundant here, gasps under its own roof. The cradles of diversity, the reefs and shallows, are collapsing. Picture the reefs as they once were, bright with corals, teeming with fish. Now picture them bleached, skeletal, stripped of color and life. Dead fish float belly up in the waves. Shellfish, unable to adapt to the acidic rains seeping into the seas, dissolve slowly, their bodies fragile against the relentless chemistry of the storm. Scientists know this happened because they find sudden gaps in the fossil record. Species abundant in one layer vanish, abruptly in the next. But here's a curious tidbit. Not every ocean died in the same way. Some regions may have bloomed with algae, green carpets spreading across the water, feeding on volcanic nutrients. From space, if you could have looked down, the seas might have glowed in streaks of unnatural color, a sickly beauty masking suffocation below. Scientists still debate how far-reaching this anoxia was, whether it smothered only shallow shelves or reached into the deep abyss. You take a step deeper into the surf and feel mud squelch under your feet. Rivers swollen with rain have carried soil, trees and ash into the sea. Visibility is near zero. If you plunge your head beneath the surface, you see only murk, drifting debris, the outlines of skeletal branches swirling in currents. The ocean has become a soup of death and rebirth, but look closer, life has not vanished completely. Small creatures, resilient beyond comprehension, still swim here. Plankton bloom in chaotic bursts. Tiny fish dart in and out of the gloom, their scales reflecting faint light like sparks. Even in poisoned seas, life finds cracks to persist. Evolution never stops. Even when the world seems broken, scientists studying black shales from this time see the fingerprints of these dead seas, organic matter piled thick, buried faster than it could decay, turning sediments dark. In these rocks, carbon is locked away, a story written in chemistry. Geologists call this ocean anoxia, a suffocation of waters, but imagine it more viscerally, a silence spreading across the seas, reefs falling quiet, predators with no prey, prey with no refuge. Above, the storm rages on. Rain lashes the waves, lightning forks down into the surf, splitting the horizon. You can almost feel the vibration as thunder rolls across both land and water. The ocean responds with its own voice, the crash of swells, the hiss of rain, the bubbling hiss of volcanic vents beneath the waves. You imagine a great marine reptile, perhaps a nothosaur, surfacing in these waters. It rises with effort, jaws snapping at the surface, but the abundance it once knew is gone. Its sleek body moves powerfully, but you sense its struggle, its confusion in a sea that no longer behaves as before. Creatures like these, once rulers of coastal realms, will vanish. The seas are being rewritten, and they are no longer built for them. Now close your eyes and listen again. Hear the layered sounds, the steady drum of rain, the deep rumble of waves, the muffled crash of underwater landslides as rivers dump their loads into the abyss. Let the imagery wash over you. This is no gentle shoreline. It is a frontier of survival, reshaped each day, each hour, and yet, in this hostile sea, seeds of the future are sown. Strange new plankton appear, adapted to acid, to chaos, to low oxygen. These tiny survivors will one day form the base of food chains in oceans you know today. Out of catastrophe comes foundation. Out of silence comes a new song. Scientists still argue whether this ocean crisis was the true killer of half the planet's species. Was it the rains drowning land? Was it the eruptions filling skies with poison? Or was it here, in the water, that extinction made its sharpest cut? The debate lingers, the evidence fragmented, but you, drifting through this moment, do not need to choose. You can simply witness the overwhelming complexity, the way every part of Earth is bound to every other. Take another breath. Imagine it smells of salt mixed with rot, of rain mixed with sulfur. Let your shoulders soften as you watch the horizon vanish behind mist and spray. You are walking along a shore that no longer knows life as it once did, but in the deep hidden from your eye, life is already writing its next chapter. This is the paradox of storms. They destroy, but they also renew. They take away, and yet they carve out space for something unexpected. So rest here, on this ancient beach. Let the thunder lull you, the waves cradle you, the endless rhythm of rain carry you deeper into calm. The ocean may be suffocating, but for you tonight, it is only a place to drift. And tomorrow, when the storm still rages, the world will shift again. The ocean behind you churns in poisoned silence, but as you step back onto land, you find that the storm's cruelty is far from finished. The rain is not just water, it is acid. It falls in sheets, soaking through forests, leaching soils, and scarring the very skin of the earth. You pause beneath the dripping canopy of a Triassic woodland, but even here, there is no shelter. The drops sting, they hiss as they strike leaves, leaving pitted holes where once there was green. Imagine walking through this forest. The air is thick with mist, and yet every breath feels sharp, acrid, sour. Ferns wilt within days. The bark of conifers cracks and peels. Streams run not clear but cloudy, tinted with a faint metallic sheen as minerals dissolve from the soil. The earth itself seems to be melting away. Scientists explain this as the fallout of volcanic gases, sulfur dioxide rising into the stratosphere, mixing with rain to fall as sulfuric acid. It is not unlike acid rain today, but magnified on a planetary scale. Entire landscapes, once steady, collapse into mud and poison. You can picture a hillside sliding away, its roots loosened by chemistry, carrying ancient trees into the flood below. And here's a peculiar little fact in modern times. Frogs and salamanders suffer most from acid rain, their skin too delicate to withstand the burn. Imagine their ancestors in this storm, amphibians crouching desperately in shrinking pools, their skin blistering, their eggs dissolving in the toxic water. They were survivors of countless ages before, but in this rain, their resilience begins to fail. You crouch low, running your hand through the soil. It crumbles too easily, its nutrients stripped. Plants that once rooted deep now topple easily, their anchors dissolved, and with them go the animals that fed on their leaves, and the predators that fed on those animals. The collapse is not loud, not immediate, but it is relentless. Like the rain itself, it does not stop. Thunder rolls above, long and low, as though the sky itself grieves. The ground beneath your feet trembles. Another reminder that the volcanoes still feed this storm. Each eruption injects more sulfur into the air, more carbon dioxide, more poison. The rain is both symptom and weapon, sculpting a new world drop by corrosive drop. Scientists still argue about how far-reaching this acid rain was. Some believe it fell across the entire supercontinent, burning forests from equator to pole. Others suggest its worst effects were regional, concentrated near the volcanic provinces. The debate remains, but the scars in the rock record do not lie. Layers rich in clay minerals hint at soils stripped of their nutrients. Charcoal fragments speak of forests burned, then drowned. You pause beneath a tree, its branches dripping, but the needles fall limp. Their color faded to sickly yellow. All around you, the forest is silent in a way it never was before. No insects hum, no reptiles call. Even the croak of amphibians is fading, their voices lost in the hiss of rain. Let yourself feel that silence. Imagine standing there, the storm endless, the life around you fading, and yet, in that quiet, something stirs. Small ferns, quick to grow, push up through the ruined soil. They do not last long, often stripped by floods, but they return again and again. Their spores travel on the wind, carried far and wide, and in every patch of cleared ground, they sprout. They are the opportunists, the first responders of plant life. You watch them spread like green carpets across the scarred land, fragile yet persistent. This paradox is one of the storm's strangest gifts. Where acid rain clears, new growth appears. Where giants fall, space opens for the small and nimble. The world is being reshuffled, its deck reordered, its rules rewritten. And here is a thought to carry. You probably wouldn't survive this. Not a day in air this sour, not a week in soil this unstable. And yet, here in the safety of your imagination, you are free to linger, free to explore the beauty hidden in catastrophe. The rain falls harder now, a ceaseless percussion on mud and leaf. Lightning flashes above, illuminating the forest in stark skeletal light. Each flash shows you more decay. Fallen trunks, rotting branches, pools of acid water, glowing faintly under the storm. The land is dissolving. Scientists call this period the Carnian pluvial event, but that phrase feels too clinical when you are standing here in the storm. To you it feels alive, as if the planet itself has decided to wash and scour, to strip and burn, before remaking itself anew. Let your breath slow again, in and out. Feel the imagined sting of rain on your skin, but let it soften, let it fade. You are safe, safe to dream, safe to wonder. The creatures of this age had no such refuge. Their lives were bound to the chemistry of the storm, their fates written in drops of acid. But for you tonight, this is only a story of rain that burned and cleansed, destroyed and remade. A story that unfolds still, in the rocks beneath your feet, in the fossils of vanished forests, in the scars of a world that endured. The rain continues, the forest continues, and though much is lost, not all is gone. Somewhere in the undergrowth, small lives persist, waiting for their moment. You leave the burning forest behind and wander once more toward the lowlands, where the floods have carved broad basins and left behind vast, silt-choked lakes. The air is still heavy with acid, but now another layer of silence presses upon you, the silence of absence. Creatures that once stirred these waters, swam in these rivers, hunted in these forests, are gone. It is not only the rain that has reshaped the land, it is extinction. Imagine walking along the shore of one of these swollen inland seas. The mud is soft, treacherous, each step sinking deeper. Once amphibians thrived here, their slick bodies sliding into pools, their eggs laid in clusters on the water's edge. Now their numbers have collapsed. The acidic waters dissolved their fragile skin, poisoned their hatchlings before they could breathe. In their place, empty silence lingers, broken only by the distant croak of the few that remain. Reptiles, too, are fading. The large, lumbering herbivores of the Triassic, once rulers of these floodplains, now struggle. Their massive frames are clumsy in the mud, their heavy jaws ill-suited to the softer, waterlogged vegetation. Some species vanish almost entirely, their bones buried beneath layers of sediment carried in from distant mountains. Scientists know this because the fossil record suddenly thins. Where once there were diverse assemblages of amphibians, reptiles, and plants, entire groups disappear. It is as though the curtain fell on an old cast, clearing the stage for new performers. In fact, paleontologists describe the Carnian pluvial event as a tipping point, one of Earth's hidden mass extinctions. Not as famous as the death of the dinosaurs millions of years later, yet just as transformative. And here's an odd tidbit. While most people have heard of the Big Five extinctions, the Ordovician, Devonian, Permian, Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous, the Carnian pluvial event doesn't make the list. It hides in the margins of textbooks, quietly acknowledged but rarely remembered. Yet, without it, the dinosaurs might never have risen. This forgotten extinction may be the very reason they took the throne. You step further into the basin. Rain ripples across its surface, constant, heavy. The water is dark, muddied by runoff, carrying leaves, branches, and carcasses downstream. You bend and pick up the remains of a reptile's jawbone, smoothed by the current. The teeth are worn. This was once a predator, sleek and strong. Now it is nothing but a relic. The debate among scientists continues. Was it the acid rain that killed so many, or the oceans suffocating in anoxia, or the endless floods sweeping habitats away? Perhaps it was all of them, converging like instruments in an orchestra of disaster. The precise mechanism remains uncertain, but the outcome is clear. Half of all species living in this age disappeared. Pause here. Take a breath. Imagine that silence, the vanishing of familiar voices in a world you had known your whole life. If you were an amphibian in this age, your children would not live to see adulthood. If you were a reptile, your food would rot before you could eat it. If you were a plant, your roots would burn with acid or drown in waterlogged soil. Extinction was not an event, it was a slow suffocation. And yet, even here, even in this world unraveling, there are survivors. Small, quick creatures adapt to the chaos. Early dinosaurs, still modest in size, scurry across the floodplains, their nimble bodies better suited to soft, unstable ground. Mammal-like reptiles, though diminished, cling to the shadows, feeding on insects that still thrive in the wet. Ferns and mosses, opportunists of the plant kingdom, spread across every scarred surface. You kneel and watch one of these early dinosaurs, scarcely larger than a dog, pick its way through the mud. Its tail balances it as it leaps across pools, its slender legs carrying it with ease. You notice its alert eyes, darting at every sound. It is fragile, yes, but it is alive. And in this new world, alive is enough. The rain hammers down, drumming on the surface of the lake, pattering against leaves, echoing against hollow logs. That rhythm becomes hypnotic. Close your eyes for a moment and hear it as a lullaby. Not destruction, not cruelty, just the endless sound of water falling. Let it slow your breathing, soften your body, guide you deeper into calm. But in the world you are walking, this sound is also erasure. Species vanish under its weight, their voices lost to time. Amphibians, once kings of the wetlands, reduced to whispers. Reptiles, once rulers of the plains, collapsing into mud. The stage is clearing. The cast is thinning. Something new is waiting in the wings. Scientists piece together this silence from stones. They find sudden gaps in diversity, layers of mudstone, with far fewer fossils than those below. The story is not told in words but in absence, in what is missing. And yet, those absences are as powerful as any presence. They mark the boundaries of worlds. You open your eyes again, the rain still falls, the mud still shifts, the silence still grows. You realize that extinction is not only about death, it is about opportunity. The disappearance of one life opens the door for another. The collapse of an empire clears space for a new ruler. It is a pattern written again and again across Earth's history, so breathe deeply now, in and out. Know that this silence is not the end. It is the prelude. It is the clearing of the stage before a new act begins. And though the storm still rages, and the world still mourns, life has never stopped. It waits, quietly, patiently, in the shadows of the rain. The silence after extinction lingers like a weight, but the storm continues relentless, reshaping every valley, every forest, every plain. You step forward into a new landscape, one where the very air itself carries a strange metallic tang. The rain is no longer simply water falling from the sky. It is a corrosive mixture, a liquid knife carving through soil and stone. This is the age of acid from the heavens. You tilt your face upward, drops strike your skin with a faint sting, as though the rain carries a bitterness beyond simple moisture. Around you the forest shudders. Leaves bear holes where the acid has eaten through them. Tree bark sloughs away in sheets, revealing raw wood beneath. Streams bubble with a faint haze, their surfaces foaming as the water reacts with minerals leached from the land. This is acid rain, born from the great volcanoes that never sleep. Each eruption sends sulfur dioxide into the stratosphere, where it mingles with water vapor to fall again as diluted sulfuric acid. For the life that must live beneath it, there is no escape. Scientists can still read the scars of these rains. Sediment layers from this time contain clay minerals that form when acids strip nutrients from soils. Fossils of plants show leaves etched and pitted. Whole forests collapse, their trunks preserved in chaotic piles where once they stood upright. And here is a curious tidbit. Tiny crystals in some rocks preserve droplets of this ancient rainwater, trapped like insects in amber. When studied, they reveal their chemistry, acidic, altered proof of the storm's burn. Walk with me deeper into this ruined forest. The ground is soft, sloshing beneath your steps. Roots no longer grip tightly, they slip easily, unable to anchor themselves. Trees lean, topple, fall, their branches cracking loudly in the rain. The canopy is broken now, letting more rain reach the soil, accelerating its collapse. Every sound around you is amplified. The hiss of droplets on bark, the splash of trunks into mud, the whisper of ferns reclaiming the empty space. And yet, for all this ruin, something astonishing is happening. Plants are shifting. Ferns spread in vast carpets, their spores traveling widely, sprouting in any soil, no matter how thin or acidic. Conifers too adapt, their needles resisting the corrosion better than broader leaves. New ecological patterns are emerging, patchwork mosaics of survivors replacing the old, more delicate systems. Pause here. Let your breath follow the rhythm of the rain, in and out. Hear the drops on leaves, the distant roll of thunder, the steady hiss of a world dissolving. Imagine what it must have been like to live here. No end in sight, no blue sky breaking through, just the endless patter of acidic water, reshaping not only the landscape but the very blueprint of life. Scientists still argue whether this acid rain was constant or episodic, tied to pulses of volcanic activity. Was the planet bathed in unbroken acidity for millions of years, or did brief respites allow forests to regrow, only to be scoured again? The evidence suggests cycles, but the debate lingers, unresolved, as the rocks whisper incomplete stories. And while the rain scoured the land, it did more than kill. It changed the course of rivers, the chemistry of soils, the availability of nutrients. Imagine seeds carried downstream, buried in silt, sprouting in new floodplains, enriched with minerals. Destruction, paradoxically, created fertile ground. New ecosystems rose from the scars, different from those before. You pause at a clearing where once stood a towering grove. Now, only ferns spread like a green sea, their delicate fronds glistening with rain. Small reptiles dart between them, their movements quick, nervous. They nibble at the ferns, cautious eyes flicking upward at every sound. These are the survivors, adaptable, opportunistic, able to feed on what remains when giants fall. And among them, you notice something else. A small, upright figure, lightly built, darting across the clearing. Its tail balances its stride, its limbs carry it swiftly across the mud. This is no lumbering reptile of the past. It is an early dinosaur, one of the fragile lineages that will in time claim dominance. The acid rain may have felled empires, but it has also cleared a path for new rulers. You crouch low, watching as it disappears into the undergrowth. It is not large, not fearsome, but it is alive, and in this world, that is enough. Let your mind drift on this paradox. Acid that destroys, but also prepares. Storms that kill, but also clear. Life that shrinks, but in shrinking, adapts. Every drop of rain both erases and writes anew. The rain intensifies, thunder rolling like a drum beat overhead. Lightning flashes, illuminating the ruined forest in stark white light. You see toppled trunks, splintered branches, ferns shimmering, small creatures darting. The scene is chaotic, yet strangely beautiful. This is resilience. This is adaptation. Scientists who study these times see patterns like these repeated across Earth's history. Mass extinctions sweep the stage, but they are never endings. They are thresholds. Beyond them, life reorganizes, reshapes, reinvents. Acid from the heavens is no exception. It is brutal, but it is also a catalyst. So rest here, dreamer. Feel the sting of the rain soften in your imagination. Hear it as a lullaby, a steady rhythm guiding you deeper into calm. Let the ruined forest fade into memory, its silence comforting rather than terrifying. You are safe here, safe to observe, safe to wonder, safe to drift. And tomorrow, when the rain still falls, we will see what life remains and what new voices begin to rise. The storm presses on, as if the very sky has forgotten how to stop weeping. You tread carefully now through valleys where once forests flourished and reptiles reigned. What greets you is not the chorus of life, but the hush of absence. This is a world of vanishing kingdoms. Imagine a broad floodplain stretching before you, glistening with rain. Once these plains echoed with the bellows of giant reptiles, herbivores lumbering in herds, predators stalking silently in their shadows. Amphibians croaked from every pond, dragonflies the size of your hand darted through the air, and conifer groves whispered in the dry wind. But now, the voices have fallen quiet. The rain has drowned them. You crouch by a pool swollen with muddy water. Along its edge, amphibian eggs once clustered in gelatinous chains, but in this acidic storm, their delicate membranes have dissolved. You lean closer, and the pool carries only silence. The amphibians, masters of the wetlands since time immemorial, are vanishing. Their fragile bodies cannot endure these chemical rains. Their hatchlings cannot take their first breaths. Reptiles, too, once triumphant on the plains of Pangaea, stumble in this new world. Some of the larger species, stocky herbivores with barrel-like chests and sturdy jaws, were built for abundance. But in this flooded age, their food rots before they can eat it. Leaves are scarred by acid, roots drowned, soils stripped of nutrients. Their bodies grow weaker, their populations dwindle. You watch one collapse, sinking into the mud, its massive body too heavy to move again. The predators that once hunted these herbivores are no better off. With prey scarce, their power is meaningless. You find the skull of one such hunter, half buried in silt, its teeth still sharp but forever silent. Its empire, too, is gone. Scientists have traced these vanishings in stone. In one layer, amphibians and reptiles abound. In the next, their numbers plummet. Paleontologists describe this as a biodiversity crash, one of the sharpest in Earth's history. Yet it is a mass extinction hidden in plain sight, overshadowed by more famous cataclysms. The Carnian pluvial event is rarely spoken of in schoolbooks, and yet, here it whispers in every vanished voice. And here is a curious tidbit. Some of the creatures that vanished were not small. They included entire families of reptiles, amphibians, and even plants that had thrived for millions of years. Imagine their disappearance not as an explosion, but as a slow extinguishing, like candles snuffed out, one by one, until the room grows dark. The debate continues. Which force was the true executioner? Was it the endless floods washing away entire ecosystems? Was it acid rain burning fragile bodies? Or was it the poisoned oceans, suffocating life from below? Scientists still argue whether extinction was driven primarily by land or by sea, and perhaps it was both. A convergence of catastrophes, layered like storm clouds across the globe. But amid this silence, you notice something subtle. Small creatures still stir. Not all voices are gone. Tiny mammal-like reptiles scurry between ferns, nibbling at seeds and insects. Their numbers are small, their bodies fragile, but they endure. Early dinosaurs, still modest in size, leap gracefully across streams, their tails balancing them as they move. They are not yet rulers, but they are learning how to thrive where others collapse. This paradox lingers in your mind. The very storm that drowns kingdoms also crowns survivors. The vanishing of the mighty makes space for the rise of the humble. You pause and take a breath, in and out. The rain falls in endless rhythm. Imagine its patter against leaves, its hiss on water, its steady percussion on the ground. Let it soften in your mind, not as destruction, but as a gentle lullaby. This is the same rain that scoured empires. And yet, to you, tonight, it is only sound, soothing, steady, carrying you deeper into calm. Look again at the floodplain. The bodies of giants sink into the mud, but the ferns rise in their place. Their spores ride the wind, sprouting in every scarred clearing. Insects buzz, smaller reptiles dart, tiny mammals burrow. The stage is not empty, only rearranged. Scientists see this too. In the fossil record, fern spores suddenly surge. They call this a fern spike, a moment when ferns reclaim the land after catastrophe. These green carpets are nature's reset button, the first to recolonize after disaster. They are the banners of survival. And so you understand, extinction is never absolute. It is always a transition. One set of lives fades, another steps into the silence. The kingdoms vanish, but the story continues. Let your body sink deeper into rest now. Feel the storm around you, but let it become distant, softened. You are walking among ghosts tonight, hearing the echoes of creatures that will never return. But you are also walking among beginnings, sensing the first stirrings of new rulers. The rain falls still, the silence deepens, the kingdoms vanish, and yet life endures, always. The rain has claimed its kingdoms, yet life is never entirely silenced. You walk forward now, into a landscape stripped bare by floods, softened by mud, and reshaped by endless storms. It seems at first that little remains, but then, in the quiet, you notice movement. Small creatures, quick and nimble, dart between the dripping ferns. These are the resilient survivors. Kneel closer, and you see one, a tiny shrew-like being with whiskers trembling as it sniffs the damp air. Its fur is thin, patchy, but it offers protection against the chill. This is no giant, no ruler of the plains. This is one of the early mammal-like creatures, descendants of therapsids that once towered over the land. Now they scurry in the shadows, feeding on insects, hiding in burrows, surviving in the gaps left by fallen empires. Nearby, a different figure emerges, upright, lightly built, tail stiff behind it, legs slim and swift, an early dinosaur. It is not the colossal predator or lumbering sauropod you might imagine. No, it is small, barely larger than a dog. Its eyes are sharp, its body agile, its movements quick. It picks its way across the flooded ground with ease, snatching at insects, darting after smaller prey. Where the great reptiles stumbled, these nimble creatures thrive. Scientists believe it was precisely this, the collapse of older kingdoms, that gave dinosaurs their opening. When amphibians fell, when large reptilian herbivores vanished, when predators lost their prey, the stage cleared. Dinosaurs, small but adaptable, stepped into the silence. And from this fragile beginning, their empire would stretch for over 100 million years. But here's a quirky tidbit. In this moment, they are not yet rulers. They are simply survivors, one lineage among many. If you had been standing here, you would not have recognized them as the giants to be. They were humble, scattered, almost invisible against the backdrop of storms. Their rise was not dramatic. It was quiet, patient, almost accidental. Look around. You see them moving in groups, tails swaying, necks craning, alert to every shift of the flooded landscape. They are cautious, for danger still lurks. Crocodile-like reptiles slide through the water, their eyes peering above the surface. Winged insects swarm, some carrying disease. The world is still treacherous, but the dinosaurs endure because they are light, nimble, adaptable. You follow them into a grove where ferns spread thick across the ground. They feed quickly, tearing at fronds, glancing upward at the sound of thunder. Their lives are short, fragile. But in this environment, fragility becomes strength. Giants sink in mud, fragile creatures dance across it. Giants starve when forests collapse. Fragile creatures nibble on whatever remains. Giants die when storms roar. Fragile creatures hide, wait, and live to see the sky clear again. Pause here, let your breath mirror their movements. Quick, alert, then slow, calm, in and out. Imagine the rhythm of small feet pattering across mud, the whisper of tails swishing through ferns, the faint sound of creatures nibbling quietly in the rain. This is survival, soft and simple, carried out in silence. Scientists studying this age find fossils of these early dinosaurs, scattered but clear. Their bones are delicate, their skeletons lightly built. They show adaptations for speed, agility, efficiency. They are not the bulky reptiles of the past, but a new kind of body, one that will flourish as the climate stabilizes. And though they are few now, their legacy stretches forward across time, to the thunderous footsteps of giants yet to come. Beside them, the mammal-like creatures continue their quiet work, burrowing, scavenging, feeding on insects. They too will endure, though they will live in the shadow of dinosaurs for millions of years. Imagine them tucked in the dark, their young hidden in nests, their bodies trembling as storms rage above. They are not rulers, but they are survivors, and survival, in this age, is enough. The debate among scientists continues. Why did these lineages endure when so many others vanished? Was it their small size, their adaptability, their diets? Was it pure chance, a roll of the cosmic dice? The rocks do not tell us clearly, and perhaps that uncertainty is fitting. Survival often has no logic. It is a thread woven through chaos, a flame sheltered by chance. You linger in this grove, watching the survivors. The rain still falls, steady, endless. The thunder still rolls, deep and distant. The volcanoes still breathe, their ash drifting in the sky. And yet, life persists. Not loudly, not triumphantly, but persistently, quietly, softly, enough. Think of your own life for a moment. How often survival is not about triumph, but about endurance. How often strength lies, not in grandeur, but in persistence. The small steps forward, the quiet breaths taken, the choices to keep going. The dinosaurs and mammal-like creatures of this storm remind you of that. Fragility is not weakness. It can be the seed of resilience. Close your eyes, hear the patter of rain, feel the damp earth beneath your feet. Imagine those small, alert creatures darting through the shadows, surviving where others fall. Let their quiet persistence lull you. Let their resilience guide your rest. Because in this storm, survival itself is victory, and survival is the beginning of every new story. The survivors have begun to shape a new rhythm, but the storm does not ease. The rains continue, steady and merciless, as if the sky has forgotten any other language. And with each year, each century, the land itself bends to the weight of water. You walk now across valleys that no longer resemble what they were before. Once dry, once cracked, once barren, they are now seas, vast inland lakes spreading across Pangaea's belly. Step closer to one. Its shoreline is wide and unstable, a blend of mud and debris carried from faraway mountains. Fallen trees float in clusters, their trunks waterlogged, their bark stripped. The water is brown, heavy with silt, and it extends as far as your eyes can follow. This is no temporary flood. These are lakes that will last for millennia, born from the storm's persistence. Scientists find evidence of these waters in the sedimentary layers of the Triassic. Thick deposits of mudstone and shale, filled with ripple marks and plant fragments, record the story of basins flooded again and again. Fossilized fish appear where once there were only land reptiles. The record speaks clearly. Valleys became seas and forests drowned beneath them. But what fascinates researchers is not just the flooding, but the strange new ecosystems these lakes created. Imagine a world where rivers merged into vast wetlands, where forests became swamps, where dry plains became inland seas. Entire landscapes dissolved into mud and water, and in their place arose new habitats, raw and uncertain. Walk along the edge of one of these lakes. The air is thick with the smell of wet decay. Plants rot in heaps, their leaves blackened by acid, their stems collapsing. Yet along the margins new growth appears, ferns spreading like green lace, reeds bending under the weight of raindrops, moss carpeting exposed stones. Life, even here, refuses to surrender. Kneel closer and watch the water. It ripples softly in the rain, and beneath its surface something stirs. Small fish dart, survivors of freshwater lineages that adapted quickly to the storm. Insects skim across the surface, their legs dancing in delicate patterns. Amphibians linger at the margins, fewer than before but still present. Their croaks echo faintly, a reminder that not all has been lost. And then, with a sudden splash, a predator breaks the surface. A crocodile-like reptile, long and muscular, rises from the water, jaws snapping at prey. It is a reminder that even in chaos, hunters adapt. These creatures, precursors to crocodiles, thrive in the wetlands the storm has created. They swim with ease, their bodies built for both land and water. While many reptiles vanished, these endure, finding new strength in the storm's aftermath. Scientists still argue whether these inland lakes were stable or transient. Did they last for millions of years, or did they come and go with the pulses of volcanic activity? Some evidence suggests vast semi-permanent basins, others point to cycles of flood and drought layered in the rock. The truth may be both, a patchwork of drowned valleys and shifting wetlands, reshaping themselves again and again. Here's a quirky tidbit. These lakes may have been breeding grounds for some of the earliest dinosaurs. Their footprints, preserved in the mud, reveal tracks of small, agile forms darting across the shorelines. Imagine them leaping from one rock to another, tails balancing them as they hunt insects and small reptiles. These lakes, though hostile, may have been nurseries for the rulers to come. Pause here, take a breath, in and out. Hear the rain falling on water, a sound deeper and softer than rain on stone. Hear the distant calls of creatures lingering in the wetlands. Smell the damp rot of forests dissolving, the fresh green of ferns returning. Let it wash over you, not harsh, not cruel, but steady, like a rhythm guiding you toward calm. As you walk further along the shore, you notice the landscape reshaping itself in real time. Hillsides slump into the water, their roots loosened. Branches drift into the lakes, forming tangled rafts where insects swarm. The very bones of the earth seem to be softening, dissolving. This is no longer the Pangaea you first stepped into. This is a drowned continent, sculpted by rain, and yet for all its destruction, there is beauty here. The lakes gleam in the grey light, vast mirrors reflecting the stormy sky. Ferns shimmer green against the mud, delicate and defiant. Ripples spread endlessly across the water, hypnotic, soothing, as though the storm is painting calm across chaos. You linger by the lakeside and realize, this is how new worlds are born, not from gentle beginnings, but from upheaval, not from stability, but from storms. The drowned forests, the vanished kingdoms, the poisoned soils, all of it clears space for something else, something that could never have existed otherwise. Scientists who study these layers know this well. They see how the pluvial event reshaped biodiversity, setting the stage for the rise of dinosaurs, for the spread of new plant families, for the evolution of new ecosystems. The storm did not simply erase, it rewrote. So breathe again, slow, steady. Imagine yourself resting by the shore of a Triassic lake, its surface rippling in endless rain. You are safe here, even as the world shifts. Safe to witness, safe to wonder, safe to dream. And tomorrow, the rain will still fall, and the story will continue. The lakes stretch behind you like grey mirrors, but as you press onward, you discover another face of the storm's legacy: mud. Not the kind that clings briefly to shoes before drying, but a planet-wide ocean of sludge. Pangaea's skin has softened. Every hillside slips, every valley fills, every river overflows. The continent itself seems to melt, reshaping beneath the weight of endless rain. You step carefully. The ground squelches beneath your feet, sucking, clutching, refusing to let go. Each step is an effort, each breath filled with the smell of rot and wet clay. The forests that once stood firm now lean and collapse, their roots loosened by waterlogged soils. Trunks lie crisscrossed, half buried, moss already spreading across them, as if eager to claim the wreckage. Scientists studying the Carnian pluvial event find whole strata of these muds preserved in stone. Thick red beds turn to grey-green clays, hold impressions of plants swept downstream, ripple marks, raindrop impressions, even footprints frozen in silt whisper of this time. The rock record is not dry geology, it is a diary of rain, page after page written in mud. Imagine walking across a slope of this sodden land. It shudders beneath you, a slow, heavy motion. Then suddenly, it gives way. A landslide, triggered by rain, roars down the hillside. Soil, trees, and boulders tumble together, plunging into the valley below. The sound is thunder layered upon thunder, the sky above, the earth below, both in uproar. This was not a rare event. It was daily, constant. Hillsides eroded in centuries, valleys reshaped in decades. The supercontinent itself was under assault, sculpted not by hands of stone, but by water without end. And here's a curious tidbit. Geologists think this relentless erosion filled the seas with silt, choking coastlines and smothering marine ecosystems. Oceans that once glittered with coral reefs became dark, muddy expanses. Sediment, carried from lands collapsing under rain, buried everything in its path. What the storm did not burn or poison, it buried alive. Pause here, feel the imagined weight of mud pulling at your legs. Hear the low, sucking sound as you try to lift your feet. Smell the pungent rot of drowned forests. It is uncomfortable, heavy, almost suffocating. Yet for the creatures that lived here, this was every day. Imagine a small reptile sinking in the muck, its movements slowed, its cries swallowed by rain. Imagine a predator bogged down mid-hunt, its power meaningless in this quagmire. And yet, look closer. Small survivors adapt even here. Amphibians burrow into softer soils, escaping deeper into the wet earth. Mammal-like reptiles carve tunnels, hiding their young in chambers safe from floods. Early dinosaurs move lightly across the mire, their tails balancing them as they leap from log to log. Where heaviness means death, lightness means survival. Scientists still debate how far these mudflows reached. Did they bury entire forests? Did they fill valleys completely? The rock record shows both small localized slides and vast blankets of silt covering thousands of square kilometers. The scale is uncertain, but the impact is not. Life was constantly displaced, constantly forced to move, constantly remade, and through it all, the rain fell on, day after day, century after century. A rhythm without pause. Sit with that rhythm for a moment, in and out. Hear it as you breathe, the patter of drops, the hiss of mudslides, the crack of collapsing trees. Let the sounds soften into something almost soothing. For while this storm was terror for its time, it is only memory for you. Memory turned lullaby. You kneel at the edge of a newly formed mudflat, where ferns sprout defiantly through the sludge. Their green fronds shimmer, delicate against the grey. Insects hover above, skimming the surface, finding niches in chaos. Life is not only enduring, it is already adapting, already reshaping itself to fit the storm. This is the paradox you carry. Destruction is never alone. Renewal always walks with it. The storm scours, yes. It erases, yes. But it also clears, prepares, creates. From the mud of drowned worlds rise the seeds of new ones. You press onward, through valleys where every step sinks, where every hill slides, where every forest leans. The land is reshaping itself under your feet. And though the rain shows no mercy, though the mud clings like a weight, you realize that this too is a kind of birth. For out of these mudflats, out of these drowned valleys, out of these endless rains, the age of giants will rise. The dinosaurs, still small and scattered, will find their stage here, among the scars of storm. Let your breath steady. Feel your body heavy, sinking like the land itself into softness. The storm continues, but you are safe within it, safe to wander, safe to listen, safe to rest. And tomorrow, when the rain still falls, the mud will harden into stone, carrying with it the footprints of survivors. Proof that even in the heaviest of storms, life leaves a mark. The mudflats stretch behind you, and the drowned forests lie silent in their decay. But ahead, the storm reveals another of its strange creations: swamps. Not gentle marshes or quiet wetlands, but vast, sprawling labyrinths of waterlogged earth, where the line between land and water is blurred beyond recognition. You step carefully into this new world, and with each pace the ground trembles like a sponge beneath your weight. Everywhere you look, pools glisten. Some are shallow, only ankle deep, littered with rotting vegetation. Others yawn into deeper basins, their surfaces coated with algae and debris. The rain strikes them endlessly, dimpling their surfaces, sending ripples spreading outward into infinity. What was once forest is now swamp, an empire of roots half drowned, of soil turned liquid, of survival balanced on the edge of suffocation. The air is heavy, wet, and filled with the scent of rot. Fallen logs float half submerged, coated with moss and fungi that thrive in this perpetual damp. Clouds of insects rise at every disturbance, humming and buzzing, their wings glittering faintly in grey light. They are everywhere, a constant swarm, feeding on decay, feeding on each other, feeding on anything that still dares to move. Kneel closer to the water's edge. Something stirs beneath the surface, a ripple, a shadow, a sudden splash. Out slides a reptile, long and sleek, its nostrils barely above the surface as it glides silently toward its prey. This world of swamps is its kingdom, and it thrives where others drown. Creatures like these, the ancestors of crocodiles, are among the storm's most cunning survivors. They slip between water and land with ease, their bodies built for ambush, their patience endless. And yet, even they must navigate danger. Acid seeps into the waters, mudslides collapse into the pools, food webs are fractured, forcing even predators to adapt. Survival here is not dominance, it is endurance, patience, the ability to cling to life one breath at a time. Scientists trace these swamps in the fossil record. They find coal seams formed from drowned forests, thick black layers of compressed vegetation that mark ancient wetlands. They find fossils of amphibians and reptiles preserved in the muck, their bodies swallowed whole by mud and sealed for eternity. These are the archives of storms, entire ecosystems trapped in layers of peat and clay. Here's a curious tidbit. Some paleobotanists believe these swampy intervals may have allowed certain plants to flourish wildly. Horsetails, those tall segmented stalks, spread in thick colonies across the drowned landscapes. Ferns, too, carpeted every surface, their spores blanketing the air. For a time, these plants were not only survivors but conquerors, seizing every patch of unstable ground. Imagine walking through this swamp with fronds brushing your legs, spores catching in your hair, every step stirring clouds of life from the muck. Pause here, take a deep breath. In and out, smell the wet earth, the sharpness of decay, the faint sweetness of spores. Hear the endless patter of rain on pools, the croak of amphibians that still cling to the edges, the sudden splash of predators in pursuit. It is a chorus both soothing and unsettling, a lullaby sung by a world half drowned. Scientists still argue whether these swampy ecosystems were widespread or patchy. Did the rains cover all of Pangaea in this mire, or only its lowlands and valleys? Did the swamps last for centuries at a time, or were they brief interludes between drier spells? The debate continues, but the evidence agrees on one truth: wherever the swamps spread, they reshaped the story of survival. And in these waterlogged realms, new actors begin to emerge. Small dinosaurs, light on their feet, navigate the swampy ground with surprising agility. They dart between reeds, leap across pools, balance on floating logs. They do not dominate yet, but they are learning. This is their training ground, their crucible. Each generation adapts a little more, grows a little sharper, a little quicker. Meanwhile, the mammal-like creatures burrow deeper into the wet soil, hollowing chambers where they keep their young safe and dry. They are not bold, not fast, but they endure. Insects, their endless resource, swarm everywhere, ensuring their survival. And overhead, winged reptiles, pterosaurs, circle in the mist. Their wings beat silently as they skim the pools, snapping up insects in midair. They too are products of this drowned world, learning to thrive above it, in skies that are hostile yet still open. You rest by a pool, watching this web of survivors unfold. It is not abundance, not the crowded richness of a thriving ecosystem. It is sparse, fragile, but determined, and in that determination, you sense the first glimmers of the world to come. Close your eyes for a moment. Hear the swamp, the rain striking water, the hum of insects, the low croak of amphibians, the sudden splash of hidden predators. Let it lull you, not into fear, but into calm. You are safe here, even as the swamp shifts and swallows, safe to imagine, safe to drift, safe to rest. This swamp is a mirror of the storm's paradox. It destroys, but it also creates. It drowns, but it also shelters. It suffocates, but it also feeds. In its tangled waters and endless mud, life learns new tricks, writes new strategies, prepares for futures unseen. And so as you wander deeper into this drowned world, you realize, even in the darkest storms, even in the deepest swamps, life refuses to surrender. The swamps lie behind you now, steaming and humming with insects, and yet the storm continues to pour its endless story across the land. The drowned kingdoms and the fragile survivors seem caught in a stalemate, until something shifts. Amid the silence of extinction and the persistence of the small, a new dynasty rises. You walk into the dawn of dinosaurs. At first, they are almost invisible, small figures darting lightly across sodden floodplains, their tracks pressed into mud only to be washed away by rain. They do not yet roar, they do not yet tower. They are quick, slender, fragile. But here, in the storm's aftermath, fragility becomes the seed of dominance. Imagine crouching low in a clearing of ferns. The rain hisses softly through the canopy, dripping onto wide fronds. Suddenly, movement. A small bipedal dinosaur darts into view, no larger than a greyhound. Its tail sways for balance. Its head snaps upward at the sound of thunder. Its eyes are sharp, reflective, alert. It is a predator, but of insects, small reptiles, and whatever scraps can be found. It is not fearsome in size, but it is efficient in motion. These were the first steps of a lineage that would one day grow into the colossal sauropods, the tyrannosaurs, the raptors. Their story begins here, in the mud and rain of the Carnian pluvial event. Scientists have traced this rise in fossil beds across the world. They find sudden increases in dinosaur footprints, where before they were scarce. They find bones of early forms like Colophysis, slender and fast, built for survival in unstable ground. The record is clear. As other reptiles dwindled, dinosaurs spread. And here's a curious tidbit. Some paleontologists believe the very rains that destroyed so much made dinosaurs possible. The floods and acid stripped away competitors. The mud and swamps favored light, nimble bodies. The collapse of old food webs created space for new ones. Without this storm, dinosaurs may never have had their chance. You walk further into this world and see them everywhere now. Small herds picking their way across floodplains, heads bent to ferns, packs of carnivores darting between shadows, their teeth glinting faintly in flashes of lightning. Their calls echo through the wet air, sharp, high-pitched, strange. They are not yet kings, but they are becoming, and amid them, another lineage stirs. Early ancestors of mammals still small, still hiding in burrows, but also enduring. Imagine them curled in nests, their young tucked close, their survival dependent on shadows. They are not rulers, but they are future architects, waiting patiently for a stage that will open much later. Pause here, breathe deeply, in and out. Hear the rain falling on ferns, on mud, on the scales of dinosaurs moving softly through the undergrowth. Hear their quick footsteps, their short calls, the rustle of leaves as they pass. Let their rhythm calm you, like the steady patter of rain itself. Scientists still debate the exact moment dinosaurs overtook other reptiles. Was it sudden, a burst in diversity triggered by the storm, or was it slow, a creeping replacement that stretched across millions of years? Fossils suggest both, a sharp initial rise, followed by gradual dominance. The truth remains layered, incomplete, like the storm's own story. But you, standing here, do not need precision. You can simply watch the transformation. Giants fade, fragile creatures flourish, the stage is remade, and the irony is clear. The storm that drowned empires also crowned new rulers. The rain that erased the mighty opened doors for the small. The acid that burned forests fertilized the ground for new ones. The storm, cruel and relentless, was also midwife to an age of giants. Imagine looking out across this sodden land. The ferns shimmer green, the rivers run swollen, the skies pour endlessly, and among it all, dinosaurs stride lightly, their heads raised, their eyes bright. They are no longer background actors. They are beginning to claim the script. Close your eyes. Hear the rain as their music. Feel the ground tremble faintly with their steps. Know that you are witnessing the dawn of an empire that will last 100 million years, and let that knowledge soothe you that even storms without end can give rise to wonders. For tonight, in your imagination, you walk beside the first dinosaurs in the rain that shaped their destiny. The dinosaurs are stepping into the silence left by extinction, but still the skies weep. The storm has not yet finished its tale. You look upward through the canopy of ferns and conifers, the grey clouds endlessly layered above you. They shift and churn, but they never part. Not for a day, not for a century. The rain falls again and again, as though the heavens have forgotten how to stop. And you begin to wonder, how long could such a storm really last? Scientists puzzle over the same question. The Carnian pluvial event is measured in millions of years, but the exact rhythm of its rains remains a mystery. Did the storm fall with unwavering constancy, a curtain of water stretched across 2 million years, or did it come in violent pulses, centuries of deluge broken by brief, fragile respites of sunlight? The rocks whisper clues but not answers. The debate continues, unresolved, like the storm itself. Imagine standing here, waiting for the sky to clear. You wait a day, a week, a year. Still the rain falls. The rivers swell, the mud slides, the forests drown. You wait a decade, a lifetime. The storm does not break. Generations live and die under grey skies. Entire species vanish without ever seeing blue. Pause here. Let your breath fall into rhythm with the rain. In and out. Feel the weight of time, the endless patience of water. What is a day, a year, a lifetime to the storm, to the earth? They are but drops in an ocean. And yet, to the creatures beneath the sky, each drop is survival or extinction. Scientists study sedimentary layers that show repeated cycles of flood and drought within the larger storm. Some believe the rains came in pulses, tied to the rhythms of volcanic activity, eruptions darkening the skies, rains surging, then easing before the next eruption began the cycle anew. Others argue that once the climate tipped into pluvial mode, the skies remained heavy for nearly 2 million years, without relief. The debate endures. The truth is lost in the mists of time. And here's a curious tidbit. Even in this storm, there may have been moments of eerie stillness. Imagine stepping into a valley where for a few years the rain lessens, ferns sprout wildly, creatures breed in abundance, rivers shrink. For a brief golden moment, life believes the storm has ended. But then the clouds return. The rains intensify, the valleys flood again, hope is swallowed. You sit beneath a tree, its bark scarred by acid, its roots half submerged in mud. You try to imagine 2 million years of this, a span so vast it is beyond comprehension. Every story of life rewritten by drops of water falling without pause, empires erased, new ones born, all beneath a sky that never clears. And yet, think of the resilience. Even under such weight, life does not vanish completely. It bends, adapts, shifts. Amphibians cling on at the margins. Crocodile-like hunters find strength in the swamps. Insects thrive in the damp, spreading in clouds. Ferns and conifers take root again and again. And dinosaurs, small but determined, carve out a foothold that will grow into an empire. The storm is both destroyer and giver. It strips, but it also seeds. It kills, but it also crowns. And in its persistence, it teaches a lesson older than humanity. Survival is not about resisting storms. It is about becoming something new within them. Close your eyes. Hear the endless patter of rain. Imagine the centuries passing with each breath. Inhale, 100 years. Exhale, 1,000. The storm continues, but you are calm within it, safe, resting in the knowledge that time itself is vast, and that every storm, however ignorant it feels, eventually reshapes into something else. The debate among scientists may never end. Was the rain constant or pulsing? Was it global or regional? Did it fall from volcanic skies or from shifting climates? But perhaps the uncertainty itself is the point. The storm is not only an event, it is a reminder of how little we truly know. And so you continue walking, the rain steady on your shoulders, the ground soft beneath your feet. The world is still grey, but within that grey green shoots rise. Dinosaurs move softly through the undergrowth. Mammal-like creatures scurry in shadows. The stage is set. The storm, for all its mystery, has done its work. It has cleared, reshaped, prepared, and though it has not yet ended, though its rhythm still falls, the world beyond it is already beginning to take shape. Breathe again, slow, steady. Let the endlessness of the rain soothe you rather than frighten you. For even in its mystery, even in its debate, the storm carries a truth you can rest upon, that nothing is truly still, that change is constant, that from water and time, life always finds a way forward. You have walked through forests drowned in acid, across floodplains thick with mud, through swamps humming with insects, and now into valleys where small dinosaurs stretch their fragile legs beneath the weight of grey skies. Yet, as endless as the rain feels, you begin to sense something uncanny, a resonance. The story you've been wandering through is not sealed in the past. It echoes, like a song that drifts faintly across time. Pause for a moment. Tilt your head upward. Imagine the clouds above, not as Triassic veils of volcanic ash and vapor, but as the same atmosphere you breathe now. The oxygen in your lungs, the nitrogen brushing across your skin, the carbon that builds your very cells, all of it has been through storms before. The world you live in today is built from echoes of those rains. Scientists recognize this too. The Carnian pluvial event is not just a curiosity locked away in ancient rock. It is a mirror, reflecting patterns we see even now. Sudden spikes of carbon dioxide, global climates shifting from dry to wet, oceans suffocating under low oxygen. These are not only prehistoric tales, they are phenomena our own age has begun to experience again. You walk further into this Triassic storm, but with every step you feel it overlaying the present. Think of modern monsoons swelling beyond their old boundaries, floods reshaping cities, oceans growing warmer, their currents shifting. The parallels are uncanny, almost unsettling. And here's a curious tidbit. Some scientists have even nicknamed the Carnian pluvial event a greenhouse rehearsal. The Earth, they say, has cycled through these upheavals before, and what we witness today, greenhouse gases rising, rainfall patterns disrupted, extinctions looming, may be a faint replay of the same symphony. Let that thought settle, in and out. Not to frighten, but to remind you, the Earth has endured storms beyond imagination, and yet life has always found a way to adapt. Imagine standing on the shore of one of those Triassic lakes again. Rain splatters against the surface, dimpling the grey expanse. A crocodile-like predator lurks beneath, while a small dinosaur darts at the edge. Above, thunder grumbles. Now, imagine the scene dissolving into a modern floodplain. Skyscrapers half drowned in water, roads turned into rivers, people rowing boats where cars once drove. The echo is not exact, but the pattern is hauntingly similar. Scientists still argue about the scale of this comparison. Was the Carnian truly global, or confined to Pangaea's tropics? Were its greenhouse effects permanent, or did they fade once volcanic activity waned? The rock record is incomplete, leaving space for debate. Yet the broader truth stands clear. Earth's climate is fragile, its patterns subject to tipping points. Storms that last a season, storms that last millennia, both are written into its memory. And so you continue walking, your feet splashing in shallow pools. The rain softens briefly, only to surge again, like breath itself. Inhale, exhale, never stopping. Life responds in the same rhythm. Species vanish, species adapt, species rise. The storm is a teacher, harsh and unrelenting, but also strangely consistent. Consider the creatures you've seen survive. Small dinosaurs, agile and light. Mammal-like burrowers, patient and hidden. Insects, opportunists of every age. They do not resist the storm. They flow with it, bend with it, adapt to it. That lesson, too, echoes forward in time. Here's a fringe thought. Some scientists toy with what if mass extinctions are not accidents at all. but engines, not failures of life, but catalysts for its greatest transformations. Without this 2 million-year storm, there might never have been dinosaurs. Without the extinction of dinosaurs later, there might never have been mammals like us. Catastrophe, in this view, is not only an end, but also a strange kind of gift. Pause here, let your breath deepen, in and out. Imagine the storm not as punishment, but as transformation. A world shedding one skin, growing another. It is not gentle, but it is natural, not merciful, but meaningful, and in that, there is a strange comfort. You glance upward again. The rain glistens as it falls, endless strings of silver weaving the air. In them, you see both past and present, Triassic storms and modern floods, volcanic skies and human skies. The Earth is one continuous story, and you are part of it. Scientists who study climate today often speak of deep time perspective, to hold in mind not only decades or centuries, but millions of years, to remember that what feels permanent may be fleeting, and what feels catastrophic may be transitional. The Carnian pluvial event is one such reminder. It was terrible, yes, but it was also necessary for the age of dinosaurs, and in a longer arc, it cleared the way for mammals, for humans, for you. So breathe again, slow, calm, let the echo of the storm soothe you. You are small within it, yes, but you are also part of a lineage that has survived storms beyond imagining. The same resilience that carried tiny dinosaurs and burrow dwellers through this rain flows quietly in your veins. The storm falls still, the echo grows stronger, and you realize that what you are walking through is not only ancient, it is eternal. The echoes of the storm linger in your thoughts, but now your steps carry you deeper into its heart, where survival itself becomes the central story. You wander across sodden plains that were once forests, now stripped and bare, and you see creatures struggling at every turn. Some falter, sinking into the mud. Others scurry into burrows, their small hearts pounding. Some leap across streams with uncanny grace, light enough not to sink. Everywhere, the storm has revealed a truth older than stone. Survival is a fragile balance. Pause a moment here. Feel the weight of the rain against your shoulders. Hear its endless rhythm against the earth. Imagine living beneath this sky, not for hours, not for days, but for generations. Each breath you take, each step you make, measured against the storm's patience. And still, life persists. Scientists who study the Carnian pluvial event often describe it as one of evolution's great bottlenecks. Whole lineages vanished, entire families of amphibians and reptiles gone forever. Yet, those that survived emerged reshaped, hardened, refined. Catastrophe, forced innovation. Fragile bodies adapted in ways that would echo for millions of years. Imagine, for instance, the early dinosaurs you've seen darting through ferns. Their bones were lighter than their reptilian cousins, their movements swifter, their diets flexible. In a dry Triassic plain, those traits might have been unremarkable, but in a drowned world, they were keys to survival. Now picture the mammal-like creatures in their burrows, their whiskers trembling as they sniffed the damp air. They were small, vulnerable, overshadowed by giants. But in this storm, their smallness was their shield. They could hide in hollows, shelter from acid rain, wait through floods. They learned to live not in abundance, but in scarcity. Without this storm, they may never have developed the resilience that would one day carry their descendants through another extinction, the one that ended the dinosaurs themselves. Here's a curious tidbit. In some fossil sites, paleontologists find burrows preserved in ancient soils, complete with the bones of the creatures that dug them. These ancient dens are like time capsules, telling stories of survival strategies written in earth. But survival was not only about size or speed, it was also about chance. Some species, perfectly adapted to one environment, simply found themselves in the wrong place at the wrong time. Whole populations drowned in floods, poisoned by acidic pools, or smothered in mudslides. Others, less specialized, stumbled onward, not because they were stronger, but because they were luckier. Scientists still debate how much of survival is adaptation and how much is accident. The truth, perhaps, is both. As you walk across this flooded land, you notice another pattern. Creatures begin to form new behaviors. Small herds cluster more tightly, moving together for safety. Insects swarm in greater numbers, filling niches left empty by others. Even plants shift their strategies, ferns spreading spores with astonishing efficiency, conifers growing thicker bark to resist acid, moss carpeting rocks in the thinnest of soils. Every life form seems to be improvising, rewriting its own survival script in real time. Pause here again. Inhale and exhale. Feel the fragility of it all, the way each creature clings to existence by the thinnest thread, and yet, let that fragility soothe you, because fragility is not weakness. It is flexibility, it is openness, it is the ability to bend without breaking. Scientists point to this storm as a reminder that survival is rarely about being the biggest or the strongest. It is about being the most adaptable. Those who clung too tightly to the past, the large amphibians, the heavy herbivores, vanished. Those who could shift, who could live on scraps, who could slip between extremes, they endured. Imagine yourself as one of these survivors, a small reptile, light on your feet, darting across muddy ground. Each raindrop feels heavy, each thunderclap shakes your bones, but still you move forward. Or perhaps you are a burrow dweller, curled in the dark, listening to the hiss of rain above. Your world is reduced to soil walls, and your own heartbeat, but within that small space, you are safe. Or maybe you are a fern, your spores drifting on the storm winds, finding cracks in ruined landscapes to sprout anew. Let your breath follow these images. In out, survival is not about conquering storms. It is about finding a way to live inside them. That lesson belongs not only to Triassic creatures, but to you as well. Here's another odd thought. Some scholars suggest, maybe mass extinctions act like filters. They strip away the rigid, the inflexible, the unprepared. What remains is a narrower band of life, but also a more creative one. In the Carnian storm, this filter left behind small nimble dinosaurs and hidden, resilient mammal-like creatures. From those threads, the great tapestry of the Mesozoic was woven. You walk further, the rain still falls, the mud still shifts, the silence of vanished kingdoms still presses, and yet, everywhere you look, life lingers, fragile, yes, uncertain, yes, but alive, always alive. Let that soothe you as you settle deeper into this journey. For you too, carry the inheritance of storms, the resilience of creatures that adapted, the patience of lineages that endured, the flexibility of lives that bent but did not break. You are here because survival, however fragile, never stopped. The storm continues, but so do you. The storm stretches onward, but now your steps carry you not just through its sodden landscapes, but into its meaning. Each drowned valley, each vanished creature, each fragile survivor feels like a piece of a larger message written into the bones of the earth. You begin to understand that the Carnian pluvial event was not only a storm, not only an extinction, but a lesson, one that ripples across millions of years, a whisper about the balance of life on a fragile planet. You walk along what was once a ridge, now softened into rolling mudslides. The rain still falls, but here the land rises just enough to keep you above the floods. From this vantage point, you see the storm's reach stretched across horizons, lakes shimmering in grey, rivers spilling over, forests half drowned, and ferns spreading wherever space opens. It is a world caught in flux, a world learning to breathe again after catastrophe. Scientists today return again and again to this moment in time because within it lies a key to Earth's patterns. The Carnian pluvial event was a trigger reshaping ecosystems, redirecting evolution, setting the stage for dinosaurs, and ultimately for mammals and humans. Without it, history may have followed a very different path. The storm is not just a story of destruction, it is a story of becoming. Pause here. Close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out, let the rain's rhythm wash over you like a reminder. Change is not something to fear, but something to understand. Even when it feels relentless, even when skies do not clear, change is the language of life. One mainstream fact echoes strongly here. During the Carnian, coral reefs collapsed almost entirely. Whole oceanic systems shut down, and yet in the wake of their disappearance, new ecosystems rose, more modern reefs built by different organisms. What seemed like an end was only a transition. Here's a curious tidbit. Some scientists speculate that the very rains of this storm may have carried nutrients into the oceans, fertilizing them in ways that shaped future marine life. In this sense, the deluge was not only a killer, but also a giver, poisoning, yes, but also seeding. But the debate endures: was the storm's greatest impact on land, clearing forests and reshaping plant communities? Or was it in the oceans, driving suffocation and extinction through anoxia and silt? Scientists still argue which domain bore the heaviest blow. The truth may never be fully known, because the Earth's record is incomplete, layered with contradictions. And yet, as you walk through this ancient rain, you realize the storm's importance is not confined to the Triassic. It echoes into every extinction that followed. When the dinosaurs themselves fell millions of years later, it was mammals that stepped forward. When the ice ages came, humans adapted. Each catastrophe reset the stage, and each survivor carried the world forward. The Carnian was one of the first rehearsals for this pattern, a reminder that endings are not endings at all, they are thresholds. Pause again. Let your breath soften, in and out. Think of the thresholds in your own life, moments when storms stripped away what was familiar, moments when you thought all was lost, only to discover a new beginning waiting quietly on the other side. The Earth itself has lived through those moments, again and again, and you are part of that lineage, carrying its quiet resilience. You kneel at the edge of a stream swollen by endless rain. Its waters rush, brown and foaming, carrying branches and soil downstream. You dip your hand in, and it is cool, alive with motion. This stream is both destruction and creation, tearing soil from one place, building deltas in another. That is the paradox of storms. They do not only take, they also give. Scientists remind us that the Carnian pluvial event cleared the way for the age of dinosaurs. But without that age, mammals might never have evolved in the shadows, learning patience and adaptability. Without mammals, humans may never have emerged. The storm that nearly ended life also planted the seeds of your existence. Think of that for a moment. 2 million years of rain, falling unbroken, shaping conditions so that one day far in the future, you could be here, breathing beneath another sky. It is humbling, it is grounding, and it is strangely comforting. Here's another fringe idea, whispered among paleontologists. What if these storms were not accidents but inevitabilities? What if Earth itself has rhythms, periods of calm and periods of upheaval, like the heartbeat of a living being? The Carnian might then be one pulse in a larger cycle, part of the planet's way of maintaining balance. It is speculation, yes, but in the rhythm of rain, it feels almost true. You lift your gaze again. The horizon is veiled in mist, the rain softening every line, every shadow. Dinosaurs move faintly in the distance, small yet steady. Ferns gleam against grey mud. Insects hover in swarms. The world is fragile, but alive. The world is scarred, but beginning. And as you take it all in, the lesson deepens. Life is not about avoiding storms. It is about enduring them, adapting within them, and rising renewed after them. The Carnian pluvial event is proof of that. Proof written in stone, in fossils, in the very structure of the ecosystems we know today. Breathe slowly now. Let the storm's lessons sink into you. The fragility of life, yes, but also its resilience. The inevitability of endings, yes, but also the certainty of beginnings. You are safe here, safe to witness, safe to rest, safe to dream within the rhythm of rain. The storm continues, but its meaning has become clear. Storms do not erase, they transform. The storm's lesson lingers with you as you step further into this drenched world. You have seen forests drowned, oceans suffocated, creatures vanishing into silence. You have watched nimble survivors rise, ferns reclaim the land, dinosaurs begin their long dominion. But now, as the rains stretch into centuries and then millennia, you sense the story reaching its final act. The silence after storms is approaching. You walk along the edge of a basin that was once a forest. Now it is a shallow inland sea, fed endlessly by rain. The water shimmers grey under the clouds, its surface broken only by ripples from falling drops. The roar of thunder has quieted here. What remains is the soft hush of rain, steady and endless, like breath itself. You stop, listening. For so long the storm has been the voice of this world, loud, merciless, commanding. But now its tone begins to change. The rains still fall, but not with the same violence. They have softened, as if the sky itself has begun to tire, and with that softening comes something new. recovery. Scientists see this in the rocks. After millions of years of storm layers, mudstone, shale, silt, new signs appear, stable soils, forest regrowth, the first hints of balance returning. The storm, though vast, was not infinite. It faded, like all things must. Pause here, inhale, exhale. Imagine the relief of that first truly clear day. A sky not grey but blue, a sun breaking through after centuries hidden. Its warmth touching leaves, drying mud, lifting creatures from their sodden despair. That moment, though small, must have felt like the rebirth of the world. The silence after storms is not emptiness. It is possibility. Here's a mainstream fact. As the Carnian pluvial event ended, ecosystems reorganized completely. Gone were the old amphibian empires, the heavy-bodied reptiles, the fragile forests. In their place, dinosaurs expanded rapidly, filling every niche. Conifers spread across the land, forming vast forests. Mammal-like creatures persisted in burrows, their resilience tested and proven. The planet did not return to what it was, it became something new. And here's a curious tidbit. Paleontologists often notice sudden fern spikes after mass extinctions, moments when ferns dominate freshly scarred landscapes. But after the Carnian, the recovery was richer. Conifers, cycads and ginkgos flourished alongside ferns, creating new forests that would define the Mesozoic world. The silence after the storm was not bare, it was green, but the debates endure. Scientists still argue how quickly life rebounded. Was it immediate, with forests sprouting as soon as the skies cleared, or was it slow, a painstaking process across millions of years? Fossils show both bursts of sudden growth and long gaps of struggle. Perhaps the truth is layered, pockets of rapid renewal surrounded by longer stretches of slow healing. You walk now into one of these recovering forests. The ground is still damp, but less treacherous. Ferns carpet the soil, their fronds shimmering. Young conifers rise, their trunks straight and strong, their needles catching drops of lingering rain. The air smells fresh, still wet, still earthy, but tinged with the sweetness of new growth. Among the trees, dinosaurs move with greater confidence now. Small herds graze, tearing at ferns. Predators stalk between shadows, sharper and bolder. This is their age now, their kingdom born from storm. You watch them with quiet awe, knowing that their footsteps will echo across the planet for 100 million years. Pause again, let your breath mirror the calm of this forest. In and out. Hear the rain softening on conifer needles, the faint calls of creatures settling into new rhythms, the gentle creak of trees swaying in wind. After so much violence, the world feels hushed, reverent, as though it too is catching its breath. And in that hush, you realize this is what storms leave behind. Not silence as void, but silence as renewal, a clearing, a space for what comes next. Think of your own storms, the ones you have lived through, how silence follows them, not empty, but full of possibility. How you too breathe differently, after struggle, your body reshaped, your mind softened, your path redirected. The earth itself is no different. Its silence after storms is not the end, it is the beginning. Scientists who study mass extinctions note this same pattern. Each great catastrophe, whether flood, fire, ice, or asteroid, has been followed by renewal. The silence after storms is as much a law of life as the storms themselves. It is not gentle, but it is certain. You linger in this recovering forest, watching creatures graze, listening to the soft rain, feeling the air shift toward balance, and you know the storm has finally finished its work. It has cleared, reshaped, and handed the stage to new rulers. Close your eyes now. Imagine the silence stretching over the land. No thunder, only rain softening. No collapse, only growth returning. No despair, only the slow, patient hum of life beginning again. The storm has ended. The silence remains, and within that silence lies everything yet to come. The silence after storms does not come all at once. It arrives in layers, like sunlight filtering slowly through clouds that have forgotten how to part. You stand now in a world still wet, still soft with rain, yet changed. The thunder has quieted, the downpours have thinned into mist, and for the first time in millions of years, the earth exhales. The land is scarred but alive. Rivers still rush, but their floods no longer devour valleys. Whole lakes still glisten, but their surfaces are calmer, not whipped by endless torrents. Forests stretch again across ridges, ferns and conifers weaving green where once there was only mud. The world feels fragile, but in that fragility, it feels new. Scientists who study this chapter of Earth's history point to this moment as a hinge, the end of the Carnian pluvial event and the beginning of the age of dinosaurs. With the rains fading, ecosystems stabilized, and evolution accelerated. Dinosaurs, once small and scattered, expanded rapidly, filling every niche. Herbivores grew larger, carnivores fiercer, their footprints pressed into drying soils across Pangaea. The rulers of the next 100 million years had found their throne. Pause here, inhale, exhale. Imagine the quiet of that world, a quiet heavy, not with despair but with recovery, the hush of dripping leaves, the call of creatures testing their new strength, the gentle creak of conifer trunks in soft wind. After so much noise, the silence feels like a gift, but the gift carries memory. The storm is gone, but its lessons remain etched into the land. The forests that grow now are not the same as those that drowned. The creatures that graze now are not the ones who ruled before. Every scar is also a seed. Every loss has carved space for new beginnings. Here's a mainstream fact. The end of the Carnian pluvial event marked not just the rise of dinosaurs, but also the spread of modern ecosystems. Conifers and cycads took root across Pangaea. Early mammals, small and furtive, began their long-shadowed journey. Coral reefs, collapsed in the storm, were rebuilt by new architects. The world after rain was fundamentally different from the world before it. And here's a curious tidbit. Some geologists suggest the very minerals washed into oceans during the storm nourished marine life in its recovery. The floods, by stripping soils and carrying nutrients downstream, may have seeded the oceans with the raw material of renewal. Even destruction had carried within it the chemistry of rebirth. Scientists still debate how long the recovery took. Did dinosaurs flourish immediately, or only after millions more years of healing? Did forests regrow quickly, or was it a slow, uneven process across continents? The record holds both signs of rapid expansion and evidence of lingering instability. The Earth was remaking itself, and like all healing, it was messy. You wander through this recovering landscape. Dinosaurs graze in herds, their tails swaying like pendulums. Small predators dart between shadows, their eyes bright with new hunger. Mammal-like burrowers emerge cautiously, sniffing at fresh shoots. The air is cleaner, clearer, the storms less choking. Above, the clouds thin, revealing glimpses of blue sky. For the first time in millions of years, the sun shines freely on Earth's surface. Close your eyes. Feel the warmth of that sunlight. Let it rest on your face, your hands, your chest. Imagine what it must have felt like for the first creatures who saw it after generations of grey. A light so bright, so alien, they may not have remembered what it was. A light that carried not just warmth but promise. This silence after storms, this light after shadow, is not only the story of Earth, it is also your story. You too have storms that feel endless. You too have skies that seem incapable of clearing. And yet, always at some point, the rain softens, the thunder fades, the sun returns. Always. Think of the Carnian now as a lullaby, whispered through stone and rain. It tells you even storms that last millions of years end, even skies that pour without mercy clear, even worlds that drown can rise again. And when they do, what comes after is not the same as before. It is something new, something shaped by endurance. Breathe in slowly, breathe out gently. Let that truth settle into you like the soft patter of rain easing into silence. As you wander the last stretch of this journey, the world around you gleams with possibility. Dinosaurs lift their heads to the sun. Forests stretch their green arms upward. Rivers carve new paths. The silence hums not with absence, but with beginnings. And you, standing here, are part of that silence. A witness, a listener, a dreamer drifting through Earth's deep memory. You carry the storm's lesson forward. That fragility is not weakness. That endings are not final. That silence is not emptiness. It is preparation. So rest now, in this silence after storms. Let the rain fade. Let the sun warm you. Let the earth's long patience cradle you into calm, because tonight, in this story, you have walked through 2 million years of rain, and you have emerged into light. The storm has finished its tale, and the world lies quiet around you. The rains have eased into mist, the clouds have thinned, the sun rests gently on damp leaves, and you too can rest now. Breathe slowly. Let your body feel heavy, safe, held. Each breath you take is a drop falling into still water, rippling outward, then fading into calm. The storm that carried you here has passed. All that remains is the hush of recovery, the silence of a world remade. Think of the creatures who endured, the small dinosaurs stepping lightly into their empire, the mammal-like burrowers curled safely in nests, the ferns spreading green across scarred soil. Their persistence is your inheritance. The same resilience that carried them forward flows through you. Let your thoughts drift like spores on wind, like ripples across quiet water. There is nothing to do now but rest, nothing to hold but calm. The story is finished, and the earth is still, waiting. If your mind wanders, return to the rhythm of breath, in and out, like rain easing into silence, like thunder fading into memory, like a storm that once seemed endless, now gone. You're safe, you are here. You're resting beneath skies that have cleared before and will clear again. Sweet dreams from a world that has always found its way back to light.